Parkway Diner in Stamford, Connecticut, on this Veterans Day. As you remember, the 11th hour of the 11th day on the 11th month, and the guns fell silent. So yes, and we want to acknowledge the veterans who have served and continue to serve as well, active duty. Don't want to forget them either. So yeah, so it's the 11th, November, the year of our Lord 2024. So there's quite a few things we have to get into tonight. But first, a promo, just a little promo here. We are still very upset over what they did to Peanut, the squirrel. So here you go. Share it. Let people know this is the proper way, the proper perspective on this matter. So yes. Now, if any of you, I sent out the newsletter to a number of people. If anybody had a chance to read it, good. If not, I'll just do a quick run through. The point of this is, the theme is, the gaslighters ran out of gas. That's because Trump won. And the main gaslighting point that they were throwing at everybody, Trump is a fascist. He's a horrible fascist. He's an existential threat to America, right? But then what happened? What? The next day, Kamala turns around and says, oh, he's not really a fascist. We'll be fine. Okay, that should shake any Democrat's liberal, demented mind. So the problem here is, okay, so she changed the tune. She changed the narrative on Trump. But the problem is the followers are not so inclined to change. So these lies will linger for a long time. And the other problem, of course, is, that's right, the current members of the federal government have no desire to disabuse people of the concept of Trump as a fascist. So they will use anything they can to support it. Meantime, the other key point to keep in mind is that already we are seeing positive effects from Trump having won, right? Take the court cases, right? Jack Smith is already saying, well, maybe we're not going to pursue that anymore. Fannie Willis, she'll be very frustrated, but her court case ain't going nowhere either. And yep, even Judge Merchan, the one who probably hates Trump more than all the others combined, he's looking at packing it in too. The one thing, I'm going to call it their last hurrah, is what will happen with the sentencing on November 28th. So it's a fair question. Meantime, I have to talk about the battle ahead. You've probably already heard in the news, especially those who like to follow Steve Bannon's War Room, that Benny Johnson, a conservative commentator who has contacts within the Senate, leaked a document which was the secret whip vote for the next leader of the Republicans in the U.S. Senate. There are three candidates, Cornyn, Thune, and Scott. Cornyn and Thune both hate Trump. So that they're being considered as leaders is just another dirty trick from Mitch McConnell, and it's not respected at all. Rick Scott, on the other hand, would be a good choice, but he received the fewest votes of all the three in the secret whip vote. All right, so when this was announced, we put out the phone number for the U.S. Senate switchboard, and here it is, 202-224-3121. So ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow, keep up the heat. Let them know that you support Rick Scott and you do not appreciate secret votes, even if it's been taken from time to time. Because the only purpose of a secret vote is to not tell you. Okay, you're the taxpayer, you're the one to keep them there, and they're not going to tell you how they voted. All right, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so that's that part. Meantime, so with respect to the projects, we've got two, okay? We've got the Chinese mercenaries now that we've discovered have been fighting in Ukraine. They may have been there longer than we realize, but at least two have been killed. Two Chinese mercenaries killed by the Ukrainians. So wait a second. By the way, we put mercenaries in quotes. So it's here we've been listening to all this stuff about how the North Korean army is coming to Ukraine. And by the way, we have one account of 8 soldiers abandoning their post, 8 North Koreans, couldn't hack it. and then another account where the Ukrainians killed a small brigade, if I've got the terms right, of 40 North Korean soldiers. So those are two little pieces of information. So the link is up, the story is there, and you just can't help but wonder if they're leaving a lot out here. You can talk about a couple of these guys. Yeah. Also, there's a video. I tried to find the link. Maybe I'll find it and post it. It shows this guy walking around with a selfie camera. He's Chinese, and he's complaining about how his buddies are like a kilometer ahead of him, and he's trying to catch up with them, and he's really tired, and he had no idea that this was what it was going to be like when they got to China. They thought it was going to be more like those computer games. Well, talk about the rude intrusion of reality. All right, next. This is at least as disturbing. Okay, there's a guy. His name is Julian Dory. He's a podcaster on YouTube. And he just had this guy on who is a documentarian, Hispanic. And I think his name is Danny. In any event, he has provided proof that, yes, the Sinaloa cartels and Chinese syndicates are working together in the pot business in California. They set up shop in these remote areas that are hard to get to, and apparently they've managed to get away with it this long. That said, I find it remarkable that if these are large operations, that the state of California has done nothing to get rid of them. Done nothing. It's pathetic. In any event, that link is up too for you to go look at. And see, the problem is that these pot farms, for all intents and purposes, are all around the country. And if we're being honest, the drug cartels are now in every state in the union. All right, so we have a serious problem here, yet our state governments are doing nothing about it. They just want to pretend the problem doesn't exist. It's really, really bad. Okay, wow. So, I have to let you know. You may be aware of the fact that Russia has a birth rate problem. They're just not having enough kids. Vladimir Putin has been quite aware of this problem for some time. So they've been trying to incentivize Russians to have more children. It hasn't been working very well. So here you go. He's got a solution. I'm going to now introduce you to Russia's Minister of Sex. Here she is. Ah! Oh my God! Ah! Ew. Ugly, baby. Oh my God. I don't think that's going to inspire them having many children, do you? No. So there you go. There's that one. And then the next one here. All right. You may have remembered, and this was so shocking and appalling. It was so bad, right, that the federal government could not remain silent. It turned out, right, as you may have heard, that there was a woman who works as an official in FEMA who told them with Hurricane Milton in Florida to skip over those houses that had Trump signs in their front yard. Don't help them. This was in a communique. Here it is. See, it was in a communique and a Zoom meeting. And she said, avoid homes advertising Trump. Yep, right there. So yeah, her name is Marnie Washington. And I think she's been fired. I'm not sure. But this really highlights the fact that the government has become the enemy of the people, plain and simple. The majority of people in this country voted for Trump. He got 312 electoral votes. And this woman decides that you people should be ignored and avoided by the federal government. So there you go. And the next thing that I picked up on here, it's sort of like the top 10 stories that have been overlooked, so I'm just going to go through these really quick. Joe Rogan is not the only one to raise this issue, but we'll let him take credit at the moment. As he and others have pointed out, if you compare the election of 2020 and the election of 2024, the Democrats got, roughly speaking, 16 million fewer votes in 2024 than in 2020. 15 million. Where did they go? We'd like an explanation. And yeah, we're still waiting. Meantime, the other overlooked story was Chris Cuomo shutting down Christine Waters' attempt to blame racism for Kamala's crushing defeat. We'll let her blather on, Chris. I mean, she's so silly. Then, the other story, for some reason, that was played down was a TikToker perfectly articulates why Kamala Harris lost the election. It was all the common sense things. It was the economy. It was the border, okay? And they didn't want to. Now, this one I find hard to believe. I saw this one. You saw Jimmy Kimmel breaking out in tears, didn't you? That was there. That's nice. And then, what's this? Oh, yeah. See, okay, General Flynn and Steve Bannon have sat down and they've been planning together on what to do, given that there's going to be more violence and protests. So far, that hasn't happened. We were expecting this right after Election Day, but it hasn't happened. The concern, of course, is that there will be a replay in some fashion for the final round of certifying who is president. It might be January 6th again, as far as I know. So, yeah. So
I said that a week ago.
Yeah.
There will be another J6 event, but it will be coming from the other side.
Yeah, so we'll see. And then, did I mention, I didn't mention, by the way, I forgot to mention, my apologies, that Tom Holman will be the new director of ICE. And for that, we are all looking forward to what's going to happen next. Now, this one's actually of some concern here. Supposedly, the top 5 big pharma CEOs held an emergency meeting right after the election. I think they know that by putting Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in some position where he has significant influence over healthcare policy, that they're going to be in big trouble. So now they've got to come up with how they're going to fight back against it. Yep.
Do you have, we're doing away with the Department of Education as well?
Well, yeah, he's made lots of, quote, promises. I mean, the thing to keep in mind was that one of the very first things Trump talked about was how he's going to, quote, preserve free speech rights. They've been eroded. There are many elements of the federal government that are going to be brought to heel, and he's basically promising he's going to take care of that. That said, senior investigative reporter Alan Shaw and I were having a long discussion today about just what's going to go on here. Yeah. What do you think, Alan? This was, yeah, I'm trying to remember what it was too. Sorry, that neuron took a holiday. The problem is that, we were talking about this. This is important. Okay. First of all, we know that the deep state is going to fight every way that it can. They're going to be deceitful in every way that they can. And I think that Trump has planned as best he can for it, but they're sneaky, they're creative. So you and I have to be on the lookout for that.
And remember the kaleidoscope theory.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Yes, you want to explain it or I'll explain it?
You can explain it.
Okay, so Alan came up with an interesting theory about the nature of, should we say, political dynamics, for lack of a better term?
State.
Yeah, okay.
It's not one group.
That's right. So yes, so in a simplified model, the deep state would represent 3 kaleidoscopes, new concepts in Venn diagrams, okay? So they're partially overlapping each other and they're kind of moving back and forth. And at a given time, right, there'll be some combination of positions in these kaleidoscopes that constitute, what should we call it, the PowerPoint, the area of greatest emphasis at that moment.
A nexus alliance.
Okay, yes, but it's temporary.
Yes.
Right, it'll
All
give,
shifting.
right, so it'll give way to yet something
Today,
else.
the phone company and the animal rights activists agree. Tomorrow, the animal rights activists will agree with the oil companies, but only as far as the oil companies are talking to the secret societies.
Exactly, yes. So, what that, I find that a compelling idea. So, hey, maybe we'll work on it, okay? Meantime, so you got 2 things here. They're kind of juxtaposed. So part of our ongoing January 6th coverage, yeah. The people who are in prison, the January 6ers, of course, feel very relieved that Donald Trump won. And they had a little celebration in jail where they're basically toasting his victory. Meantime, over in the other corner, the Inspector General for the Department of Homeland Security, I want to say, or the Department of Justice, has continued to refuse to release their J6 report. The reason being that J6 report will detail what people in the federal government were actually there undercover, where, doing what on January 6th. This will end the lie.
And that'll end Christopher Wray as well.
And yes, and as well as him.
I'm
What's
sure
that?
he had people there, but I don't think he was the big. I don't think he was the big player.
No, he may not have been the big player, but I mean, the sense is that all of these people contributed.
We can't discuss ongoing investigations right now.
Yeah, okay.
Because ongoing investigations will continually be ongoing.
Yes, the ship that never comes to port, right. So yes, so that is the current situation. The question is whether or not the Inspector General will finally release the report. He's under a lot of pressure to do it, just will he do it? And then there's one last thing, that's another point of concern. Oh, wait, two last things here. First of all, this story that came out a little while ago about how a number of Navy ships have been sabotaged in the shipyard in Virginia. What is that, Hampton Roads? Newport News. And yeah, so they are finding quite a few. So this is like a case of systematic sabotage, right? This is unacceptable, and it just shows that the people who are in charge are doing a lousy job. So when Trump gets back into position, we can count on that to be fixed. And the other thing I just need to quickly mention is because Alan, our senior investigative reporter, Alan Shaw, submitted this at the last minute. In Texas, hundreds of teachers may have paid others to take their certification exams. One gentleman apparently made around $1 million at $2,500 a pop to sit in for teacher certification exams in the Houston School District in good old Houston, Texas. He was finally caught because he had bribed the proctor. And I think that a number of people in the Department of Education are becoming suspicious. And on this occasion, what you had was, let's say, 3 terminals that this one test taker was managing, so he would hop from one to the other. Well, he kind of got caught in the middle of all that hopping around, and that's how the case broke. This has raised a lot of questions. If this is happening in Texas, could it be happening somewhere else? So people are going to be taking a closer look at this. And as one person pointed out, it's really a very important quote, so bear with me here. Yes, everything is fraud. Everywhere you look in the USA Today, from Hertz to teachers to insurance companies to Wall Street to qualified immunity, it is all built to let the least qualified through and the most corrupt to lead. There you go. On that, I just want to add one last thing. Yep, it looks like there's election fraud in Connecticut, ladies and gentlemen. Should we be so surprised? Should we be so surprised? I'm just going to, there are several, well, just 2 here.
Preface this by saying, or reminding the viewing audience that Jonathan Steinberg in Westport said that there's absolutely no such thing as voter fraud.
Yes, that's right. Well, Mr. Steinberg needs to be sent to election fraud education camp. The all right.
Who is he again?
Was it John Steinberg?
Jonathan Steinberg.
Yeah, it's a
District
136 in Westport. Yeah, the Democrat who got reelected, by the way. So Doug Dubitsky, a Republican representative, noted that on election night, the unofficial account in Brooklyn, Connecticut was 630 for him and 375 for his opponent. But the current official count has him at 260 and his opponent at 203. So how did he lose, what is that, 270 votes? How did he lose? No, 370 votes. What happened? Okay, I'm calling fraud, just letting you know. And the one other example here is Connecticut State Senate Democrat candidate May Flexer was losing by over 1,000 votes on the night of November 7th. And the same day, 1,600 registered voter ballots came in her favor from who knows where. So, gee, if anything stinks of fraud, that's it. So Connecticut's got a problem, and we better fix it. And on that happy note, I'll see you next week.